It seems like we entered a time warp and went all the way back to 2011, with PlayStation and their most recent service outage. But find out why fans are even more pissed this time around compared to the last one, up next. What's going on, guys? It's Kalo, and I'm here to give you the lowdown on all things gaming. And if you're new here, feel free to subscribe to this channel for weekly video game news content. Drop a like on the video, and welcome to the Level Up. So today's story is more of a cautionary tale for those of you who are just getting into gaming, and for those of you who happen to not be around in 2011, when the gaming industry was a completely different business. The very short version of all this, I'm sure you've heard it by now, but back in 2011, PlayStation Online services experienced an outage much like the one we just experienced. On the other hand, that one lasted about 23 days. This rendered your PlayStation console and your PSP, let's not forget that was a thing at a point in time, they were practically useless. Now, the source of the outage at that point in time was quoted as an external intrusion, which basically means the service was hacked and around 77 million accounts were compromised. This forced Sony to deactivate the PS network, and a bunch of personal information like usernames, financial details, and credit card information was just kind of put out there. Now, crisis aside, back then, like I mentioned earlier, things were different, and gaming wasn't even close to what we know it as today. Digital game libraries really weren't much of a thing, and single-player games didn't require this always online mode. So realistically, even though there was an outage for online services, you can still boot up your console, no problem at all, and play your single-player games. Now, fast forward to last Friday into Saturday, and maybe a little into Sunday, and longtime PlayStation vets experienced a little PTSD because another outage struck PlayStation, which took servers offline for about 20 hours. I mean, the timing of all this in general was just plain bad because the weekend is prime gaming hours for most people. And again, like I just said, issues still lingered well into Sunday for some users. Now, modern times have modern problems. And just recently, PlayStation launched the PS5 Pro. And no, I'm not gonna bag on that console. But let's just say if that happened to be your secondary PlayStation device, or let's say you owned a PlayStation Portal, some users couldn't even access them because they weren't set up as your primary console. This is because if you happen to own a ton of digital games, PlayStation wants to check the server to make sure you own the license to those games. And that's even if they're single player. So, as you can see, the problems just kept stacking up for PlayStation. And now, heavy concerns for this all-digital future are being raised, and rightfully so. Also, this goes without saying, outages aren't only limited to PlayStation. Xbox has experienced some of them as well over the years, and some of these problems are to be expected every once in a while. But we are paying customers after all, not to kind of pull that card, but we do deserve answers, and a clear line of communication given the premium amount most of us are paying. And that right there, pretty much just like Xbox, I had issues with how PlayStation handled this situation. Most of the time, tweets or updates were very vague to say the least, like this here tweet from the Ask PlayStation account. Quote, "We are aware some users might be currently experiencing issues with PSN." So that right there was the first tweet whenever the outage initially happened. Now let's fast forward to when things randomly were fixed. Quote, "Network services have fully recovered from an operational issue. We apologize for the inconvenience and thank the community for their patience. All PlayStation Plus members will automatically receive an additional 5 days of service." I mean, that right there, in a time where you're kind of uncertain as to what's going on, those two tweets are very, very vague. And this is exactly what caused fans to be a little skeptical on what exactly happened here. And that's all in part due to the prior 2011 hack. That was the biggest hack in gaming we've ever seen, where a lot of information was compromised. And ever since, that problem always kind of lingered around PlayStation whenever services went out. Now, what on earth an operational issue means, I honestly have no clue. And some people are upset as far as the compensation goes with this outage, with it just being an extra 5 days of online. Now to that, I kinda stick up for PlayStation a little bit. Keep in mind, back during the month-long outage, you had a choice during those days of this heavily curated list of PlayStation and PSP games. So kinda keep in mind, that was a few days compared to just a few hours. To me, as far as this outage goes, PlayStation, in my opinion, really just dropped the ball as far as communication goes with its fans. I also pay for this service, keep that in mind, but I'd like to know what on earth is happening when it comes to premium services and why I'm not able to access them. And specifically for PlayStation, they've experienced this before, and they know fans are already kind of on the fence whenever the service goes out, kind of hoping it's not the big one. But again, communicate that through this whole time, tell them that you're working on things are being done behind the scenes, and then you can announce things are finally fixed. Plus, it's just as simple as being just a little bit more open as to what exactly is happening. A lot of common users, I don't even know what this operational issue is or what it means. So maybe just tell people that's what it is, a wire got unplugged, I don't know. But yeah, just communicate that. But with all that being said, I'm gonna pass it off to you guys. What do you think about all this? Do you think this is what PlayStation's telling us, like the actual reason for the whole outage? Let me know in the comments down below. But that about does it here. I've been K-Lo, I gave you the lowdown on all things gaming, and if you're new here, feel free to subscribe to this channel for weekly video game news content. Drop a like on the video, and this has been the Level Up.